What do you want to know? Everything? Alright, well, I don't know if I can tell you everything. You see, President Wilson's hiding something from y'all. I know, big shock, sir, right? The government hiding something from you? Well, President Wilson's hiding something from y'all, okay? See, if you remember back in April of last year, it's like the 2nd, that was 1917, for those of you who can't do the math. He goes out, does his big announcement, his, I like to call it, edict. Basically tells Americans, if you're telling information, it's wrong. You know, a loose lip can sink a ship. Well, President Wilson's censoring newspapers, he's censoring letters, sound familiar? And they're going to be cutting out, you know, big chunks of your letters just going to be missing. See, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I'm 26. I was sent out to Quantico, Virginia. A couple of my buddies. One Joe goes all the way up to Rolling Plains, Indiana, right across from Rockford, Illinois, with one of our buddies, Al. Another Joe goes up into Ohio. Now, we're going to be training all over the country. You know, we're sending us small town boys, big city boys, wherever they can to train. What's going to happen is something called the Veteran Reserve Corps that was created back during the Civil War. Still around today. So you're wounded, you're medically infirm, you're going to be brought back from the fields over in Europe. After we get over there, of course, we'll parlay into that pretty soon. And they're going to be spreading something called Spanish Influenza. You ever heard of it? If not, you're going to find out pretty soon, because it's going to affect 1 in 8 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, Spanish influenza is this pandemic of sorts. Starts out with this chilliness, and then, like the bubonic plague, develops swelling of the neck, blackened lymph nodes, swelling of the cheeks. Sound like the plague? Well, it spreads like the plague too. Through merchant ships, through the maritime service going across, carrying our allies' gear, such as the Doughboy helmet. Some of you all may have heard of the Eddystone rifle. It's the American version of the Enfield. We're sending that across to Great Britain, into the fields of France, you know, fighting back the Huns. Well, President Wilson doesn't want anybody to know what's going on, because Mexico had to go screw it up. See, something called the Zimmerman telegram, if you're a historian or not, you may have heard of it. If you ever heard of it before, you should have. It's in all your papers. The Zimmerman telegram is going to be intercepted around March 1917 by the British intelligence. And it's a letter from an officer in a parliament almost in Germany. He's going to send it to an Einert fellow down in Mexico, a German ambassador to Mexico. Basically saying the following: Mexico, whore yourselves out to Germany and we'll give you big payday. Well, that big payday, as Mexico would have gone along with it, is going to be taking over the southwest of the United States, driving us up, causing turmoil here, so we can't put a full force in Europe. So the Germans, the Austrians, the Italians can beat back the French, the Belgian, the Russians, the Polish, and the English. Of course, it gets intercepted. America finds out. We swoop in to save the day. Go big or go home, the Great War. So that's 1917 June. We're going into full action. We're sending troops overseas. And then they start getting wounded in the fields. They're coming back, these Veteran Reserve Corps, to do training in the camps, do administrative work if they're wounded, and serve out their time and get back to their country. Well, up in Camp Grant here in Indiana, there's a guy appointed by the name of Colonel Hagedorn. Not like the Hagedorns that run the automotive plant. You know what I'm talking about? You all ever get your car switched down there? Alright. We're kind of new. Work on your Model T. Anyhow, Hagedorn, different spelling, decides he's not going to listen to his medical officers up at Camp Grant. What Camp Grant's going to consist of is close to 15,000 men before it's all said and done. They have makeshift barracks, they have A-frames, and basically a company street is going to be from tree to tree with just tent poles and then a tarp over the front of it. And that's just to keep out the weather and the elements. It's going to have 180 men. Smaller A-frames, going to have about 18 men. And they're packing them in like sardines because they were not prepared to go this quickly and this heavily into the war. So, disease, if you may or may not know it, if you're not a medical expert, spreads the closer people are together for long durations of time. And under the best sanitation conditions, we don't have indoor plumbing if you haven't caught on yet. I'm sure you all enjoy your outhouses just fine. Wells, so it's a rough lifestyle living the military life, but it's something we're happy to do to give back. Disease is going to start spreading. 1 and 8 again are going to catch on. 4,000 men are loaded onto a train by Colonel Hagedorn's orders to go down to Georgia. They're going to do their final training there, and then they're going to be shipped to Savannah. They're going to be put on a boat. They're going to be taken over to France. Well, one man starts coughing in that train. Let me give a little hint about this train. I call him a rolling coffin. Because here's what's going to happen. There's no ventilation. Men are smoking in there. Men are going to the bathroom in there. It's like a slave ship of old. You're going to be packing them in there as close as they possibly can to get as many out. 4,000 men in total. They start running them down the rail lines. Men are smoking, little ventilation. Somebody starts coughing. Guy a few rows down starts sneezing and starts coughing too. Next thing you know, you have all the train car coughing, some bleeding from their nose, mouth, or ears. They got Spanish Influenza, baby. Well, this disease, since I'm dead, I can see into the future, is going to be a variation of the H1N1 virus. You ever heard of it before? Popular. It's going to be popular here in about 100 years, around 2006, 2008, like a swine flu almost. The variation of that exact same disease is going to show up a century from now. And it's going to cause mass turmoil. And these 4,000 men, 1 and 8 are going to catch it. They're going to get off at the box cars and they're going to stop at different stations for refueling. Naturally, you got to refill on cold. They're going to pile back into their rolling coffins and they're going to keep headed south. Colonel Hagedorn doesn't listen to any of his medical officers, like I said before. That train's going to pull into camp down in Georgia. They're going to unload it, and 1,500 men are going to pile off with Spanish influenza. That's a lot. Nearly half. Out of that, 1/8 is going to die. 356. We're going to do the math on this some more. There's 356 death notifications you have to send out off of one train car alone. Think of how many people are in the infirmary. You have to send out near-death notifications. Oh, it's starting to rain. I hope y'all are ready. They have to send out near-death notifications. So what's happening? Families are starting to swarm the camps, hoping to see their son right before their final moments. So what's going to happen is these soldiers are going to die, and then they're going to move the bodies. Well, they're running out of train cars. They're running out of ambulances. They're running out of motor vehicles of any type. They're going to be going back to medieval sorts, cart and mule, and they're going to work the mules until they cave over. What's eventually going to happen is disease is going to spread through bodies too. Remember the mortuary practice? They have to come in contact with blood. Morticians are going to catch this disease. Embalmers, anybody you want to name it, is going to catch this disease. Families are going to be catching it from the bodies they're going home with, and so on and so forth. Well, all in all, this pandemic claims lives what is predicted to be 20 to 25 million people from the years of 1918 to 1920, and that's on the low end of the spectrum. Colonel Hagedorn, as it goes, decides that he can't live with himself, knowing how many lives he risked and how many lives he ended up taking through his error. He's going to go into his office one evening after getting the final death toll. He's going to take his own life, adding another statistic to the Great War. That's all I have to say about that. You all have any questions? Nope. Well, we have another group that wants to hear the same story, but I got a quick little story for you. Little local history. A man by the name of Woodford Gordon, he's going to be voluntold, drafted to go into military service. In 1916, he marries his wife Nellie. She's a twin, has a sister named Ellie. That's a true story right there. Anyhow, Woodford's going to go through medical processing. We know it today as MEPS. He's going to go into basic training. And when he completes his training right before he goes to Europe, find out he's a tuberculosis carrier, which is running rampant at this time right across the river in Louisville. He's going to eventually evolve into the establishment of a sanatorium to make sure that people can be taken care of. Woodford's condition is verified by a Cornell doctor from Louisville, would have risked the lives of his entire regiment had he gone, because sanitation conditions and health conditions would have decreased rapidly from being in the trenches, lack of proper medical access. It's believed he would have killed half of his regiment as his tuberculosis sprang up. He's going to die in 1966 from leukemia, which he was also a carrier of and they did not detect at the time. And carrier of leukemia. He had it in remission in his body his entire life until 1966. And that's the story for that.